Let's say after a long day, you decide to unwind and chill. You decide to put on Netflix because that's the easiest option, but you get overwhelmed by how much stuff there just is on there. You can't decide what to watch because it is hard making decisions nowadays. So you decide to switch your brain off and just put on Desi Blinger's ambient viewing. Just as about to press play though, your brother comes in, slaps you across the face, snatches the remote from your hands, and puts on a film that you forgot even existed. You're about to switch it off because, of course, but you see this shit. And you're enamored and more or less confused by what you just saw. And then you see this. And then this. You decide to watch a little bit longer to see what is going on. And before you even know it, 3 hours pass by and the credits roll. And you see the creators behind this? Tigmanshu Dhuli and Anurag Kashyap assisted with story development? For this? Why? You might be wondering, what film is this? Is it some hard-hitting action saga like Gangs of Wasseypur or Pan Singh Tomar? Is it some artistic mood piece along the lines of Dev D? Or is it some random Hindi film that no one even knows exists? If you thought any of those options, then you'll be right about nothing. Because it is the 2007 big-budget romance musical flop. First of all, I'm not trying to review this film. I'm not trying to convince you to watch or not to watch this film because that is not my objective. I'm here just to have a place to funnel my feelings about the shit I watched recently. And also for JBJ, I don't think most people are exactly looking to watch this film, okay? These are simply just my thoughts and perspective on the film. I'm not trying to be a critic because that is not my intention. I'm not a good critic, okay? Cool? Cool. Jhoom Barabar Jhoom was a film produced by Aditya Chopra under the Yash Raj Films banner, and whose screenplay and dialogues were written by Habib Faisal with additional help by Anurag Kashyap and Tigmanshu Dhulia, which is such a peculiar and interesting combo considering their future filmography and the pathways they take in their films. But it was 2007 and I can see why they would choose a film like this because, unka bhi to ghar ko chalana bhi padta hai na. Its story and direction was done by Shad Ali, who prior to JBJ directed Satya and Bunty Bubbly, and most recently, Mr. Mummy. It was released on the 15th of June 2007 and was mounted on a pretty big budget for the time, approximately 25 to 27 crores, which is about 75 to 80 crores in 2026, or compared to contemporary Hindi films, almost double Sayyara's budget. One thing that this film did not lack was talent and capability. The team that worked on this film were a great group of individuals who were able to work on a film like this and at such a scale. And it wasn't like the audience was not accepting of films along these lines in terms of pitch and genre. Films like Salam Namaste, Namaste London, Bachna Hai Hasino, Jab We Met, and even Singer's King were all financially successful ventures. So why did this turn out to be a financial disappointment? Why did this not do so well? Like with most things in life, it's not really black or white, it's gray. And there are a bunch of factors that help or not help in this film becoming a box office success. See, in the time, this film was big, and I mean big. A lot of films in this type of genre and style have, more controlled budgets. Classics like Jab We Met, Satya were made in far more reasonable budgets. YF also spent it likewise. They got the best technicians in the business who are working with writers and directors in their prime. And also music composers. In front of the camera was no different. The majority of the film was shot in real locations and often abroad, mainly shooting in London and Paris, in, actual lived-in places, not just curated sets. They shot at a
Palais de Chaillot.
I don't know how you say that actually. Which has this beautiful view of the Eiffel Tower. Also, Abhishek Bachchan could do this shit while singing. This moves on to my next point, the cast. The main leads consisted of Abhishek Bachchan, Preeti Zinta, Bobby Deol, and Nara Datta. Also including one of the weirdest special appearances I think Bollywood has ever done, courtesy of the hippie variant of Amitabh Bachchan. Close to 40 years of legacy, hard work, and sheer dedication to the craft. All for him to end up looking like if the tiger from Om Shanti Om became a person. Like, I get eccentric choices, but this was just bad. Anyways, back to the film. See, these are wonderful actors who I believe played their parts in the film to the, exact pitch that it required without it being cringy. And I found them lovable in their roles. But in terms of your optics and as actors, less and more crowd pullers for the film, I do not think that they were the best pick. At least for the scale and at the time that this film was being made. Abhishek Bachchan's most commercial films, he did have some commercial films under his belt. He had the Jhoom franchise, he had Bandiyo Bubbly, Das, and Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna prior to JBJ. These were films that the audience was aware of, but not for Abhishek Bachchan. Either he was not the main lead or the films were just not that good. Bobby Deol had a similar story, with him being on the downtrend of his career, with his last big films being Hamraz and Ajnabi, all the way back in 2001 and 2. Also, with him not really being the main lead. Preeti Zinta was perhaps the most popular star in this film, prior with big hits such as Veer Zara, Salam Namaste, Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, to name a few. And Nara Datta also did do Masti, No Entry, and Bhagam Bhag. Absolute classics. And, films that many people love till this day, but not enough to push the needle at the ticket counters. A film like this, at a scale like this, in a genre like this, required a bona fide star, but was severely lacking of one. And my final reason, which is perhaps the biggest sin of all in any film, is that there was no substance. Which is honestly okay, to be honest, because films can be successful without substance. Welcome to the Jungle just came out, Houseful 5's just still going. But it had no hook. There was no obvious reason, nothing that was pulling the audience into theaters to go and watch this film theatrically at the time. There was no star to watch in theaters. There was no special twist or plot point, nor anything interesting in terms of subject matter. YRF had gone to make a glossy, filmy extravaganza of a film, and they did that successfully, but they forgot to tell the audience that's the purpose. And it seems that's why it flopped theatrically. Now, when Jhoom Barabar Jhoom did release in theaters, I was not even a year old. But my dad was old enough, surprisingly. And he went to watch it. And according to him, kuch story hi nahi tha. His words. And with that opinion, I chose to stay away from this film because I believe my dad. But when I watched it last week, I realized for the first time that dads can also be wrong. He is not wrong about the film having no genuine story, but that does not necessarily make a film unenjoyable. Jhoom Barabar Jhoom, despite all of its flaws, is such a fun time. Through its humor, characters, musical elements, and just pure vibe. It makes for a good time, as a film watching experience. And I'll explain how and why in 4 main ways Jhoom Barabar Jhoom is a great film. The first element that makes this Jhoom Barabar Jhoom really good is its visual language. Jhoom Barabar Jhoom is many things, but one thing it isn't is cheap. It is a beautifully made film shot in some great locations and real location. It isn't like a Gunpath where they spend 200-300 crores and give us a pile of green screen shit. It's all real, and it feels real, and the technicians behind it showcase the vision of JBJ beautifully. DOP, sorry for the mispronunciation, Ayananka Bose is a veteran in shooting a beautiful foreign location, and it's no different here. In real locations like Waterloo Station, feels real. Now that may sound stupid because it's a real place, but I've often noticed that when filmmakers do shoot in real locations, it feels like that everything else surrounds the film. It's at the whim of the filmmakers. And I feel like that aspect does not get portrayed properly in every film. But in this place, it feels like that these characters are part of the world and the world does move, regardless of them. And I love that. It feels larger than life. It also is prevalent even when there are sets involved because it feels intentional to the design of the film, to the pitch. Because, it is a musical and it does involve those sets in a way where it doesn't feel cheap or tacky. It feels proper and appropriate. There are also some unique directorial choices and ideas that I feel do not get used enough in, mainstream Indian cinema. I really like the interviews and cutaways, for example. It's something that I don't really get to, I feel that I don't really get to see in Indian cinema, where something is happening in the main story, but then it would switch to other characters within that universe for their perspective, often for humorous reasons. I think a contemporary film that did something similar was perhaps Kal Ho Na Ho with its cutaways, which are also really fun. But that is a small tidbit of the elements, that encompass JBJ. I really love how much of a musical this film really is, and how it even feels like a stage play at points. Music is a big element in Indian films. It's a major part of our screenplays and how our films are created. But in this film, its music takes precedence over the plot and becomes the story. It becomes a major storytelling device, especially when it comes to talking about the perspectives of each of the characters. This is not uncommon, but they often feel shoehorned. It's often used as a moment or to break from the film, so people can go for a toilet break and get food and stuff at the theaters, or to appeal to the male gaze, because item song. But JBJ uses this element very well, where you can gauge the story or the character's feelings at that point. It's also done in an earnest and honest fashion. It can seem cringe or boring if done, with a sense of, dishonesty. But because of how I feel that the filmmakers, did this with sheer earnesty, it comes off as charming and really beautiful. But its visuals are only half of this musical play of the film. The other half also needs to be fitting for this to work, which is the music. And I must say that this album is an absolute banger. You may or may not like the film, but the music is undeniably unique and filled with soul. Each track is such a fun and unique taste for the film and is as eccentric as the film, which I feel that it benefits from. Like, if the songs were of a cookie cutter template, it just would be boring. And because of how dependent the film is on its music, it would have made the film boring. Luckily, Shankar Ehsaan Loy do not fail in this regard and provide a great audio-visual experience. This isn't really surprising because I believe this is during their golden era for their Bollywood albums. During this period, they made albums for Mission Kashmir, Dil Chahta Hai, Kal Ho Na Laksh, and so on. They were truly cooking, and JBJ is an amalgamation of, their prowess as music composers. One thing that I have noticed that, for any film, especially for Indian films, these songs do not have to be just good, but they also have to be in line with the film's vibes and tonality. Like, you cannot be putting Dik Chik party songs in a film like Tare Zameen Par. That would not work. It has to be cohesive and on the same pitch as the film, which I feel that has been kind of lost in the current era in the pursuit of making a song that goes viral and hence advertises the film. The cohesion is just missing for the most part. Like recently, the album from Welcome to the Jungle. It's just a whiplash of genres. It makes no sense considering what the film is actually about and the genres that it's in. The title track would be like a nostalgic ride of the original, brass tunes and bandwala type fun, but then have a random break of like techno music going on for no reason. And then they would have like a random song called Kyun by Talwinder for this film. They're not necessarily bad songs, although the film is pretty shit overall. But they're also not relevant to the film's identity, which I feel that for Indian film industries is not good. Shankar Ehsaan Loy does not seem to have this problem. And in JBJ, it is such a beautifully, originally eccentric collection of songs. In the same album of a song like Ticket to Hollywood and Kiss of Love, which is this quirky and very much the musical-esque mixture of the film, also has Bolna Halke Halke in the same album, which is, in my opinion, one of the most soulful love songs ever produced in Bollywood. These songs are very different, but they still contribute to the film's style and identity, and it makes you more engaged to the film and its characters. Speaking of characters, the acting in this film. The main cast do, for the most part, strike a balance between its over-the-top pitch while still being sincere and not coming off as overacting or, looking down at the characters. I'll talk one by one for the main cast, starting with Abhishek Bachchan. I feel that he is still a good vessel for Ricky Tokral and his personality, and I still like him as, for his character portrayal and as a love interest for Preeti Zinta's Alvira. But I do feel that sometimes it can be too exaggerated and can come off as more annoying rather than charming. But for the most part, he's a perfectly wonderful actor, and I really like him in this. Watching Lara Datta, though, in a comedic role after a while reminded me of how charming and lovable she is. As an actress, I can see why Bobby Deol fell in love with her so quickly. She is witty, self-aware in pitch, and has such underrated comic timing. My favorite line of, hers and the entire film is when she goes see Steve's mother, Bobby Deol's character, for the first time before they head off in the end. And she's just sitting there as Bobby Deol is trying to convince her mother. And then she just jokes down and is like,
Very pena manju.
So funny. Especially because it's just a throwaway line, but the way she says it is so earnest, but then also has this I don't care energy, which makes it so funny for me and my brother. And it's easily one of my most favorite lines from this film. Because it is so contradictory, how you would expect meeting your mother-in-law for the first time, and it makes me miss her and her comedic capabilities. And it makes me even more frustrated at how she was so painfully wasted in Welcome to the Jungle. It also works because of how it is so different to Bobby Deol's character and pitch, which brings me on to Bobby. You see, recently he is known as the Animal guy. He is Abra, the, Daru guy, the Jamal Kudu guy. But after watching a, JBJ, and I realized that he is such a, he's so good to play a dumb guy, in a comedic manner, and he plays it so well in this film. He plays Steve and Satvinder, which this suave guy, and then also this mama's boy in the film. And I love the way he plays this man-child of a person, which is surprising because they usually do become irritating real quick because it's repetitive and it's built in a way where it's supposed to be he just keeps saying, I hate you, which I find frustrating most of the time when it comes to that type of humor. But I don't know, man. The way that Bobby Deol does it, it is just so good. I love his banter as well with Preeti Zinta, and moving on to Preeti Zinta, oh my god. She's such a wonderful actress, and a pitch and type of film for her by this point, she knew it like the back of her hand. And that doesn't mean she was in autopilot mode like Salman Khan, where it comes off as more robotic and disinterested. She was still as charming, sweet, funny, and still holds a conviction in the, absurdity of the plot that is very rarely seen today in the current actresses. Her portrayal feels intrinsic. That charm and playfulness has to come from within. And I don't think it would be very easy to produce artificially. You can't really act that. Which is why I love her in this character. And is enough for me, at least, to carry the load that is often left off by Abhishek's acting at points. What I enjoyed the most from all of them, though, is the sincerity that they have played these characters. They do not look down on them, per se, even though, they are very much caricatures and, kind of dumb and weird or outcasts, you could argue. Which is something that Amir Khan is, recently being accused of for doing with his characters recently. It was done with a sense of earnestness and compassion for the character, which I feel is important for you to be able to engage and empathize with these characters in the film, even when there's some absurd shit going on. Which leads me to my final point.
Can we do it?
the absolute conviction from the entire production in its batshit absurdity. The film is crazy, no doubt about it. And there's so much going on that it can be overwhelming, boring, and stupid at the same time. And I feel that if the creators weren't convinced themselves in the world, it would show on screen. And I feel like that awareness is what makes it so amazing. Like on the surface, who does a dance competition as their climax when their main lead are Bobby Deol and Abhishek Bachchan? Like, look at this shot. Why? What is Abhishek doing? Why is he making that face? Why did they make Amitabh Bachchan, and I don't know how they even convinced him for it, to wear this and dance in Waterloo Station? He looks like a bougie beggar. He's like as if he's trying to dance to get some money. Why did they try to make Lara Dutta do a French accent that is unintelligible without subtitles? There was no need. They could have just made her an Indian that happens to live in Paris. Why does this film revolve around two people who are in love, but because they lied, they need to show their fake stories in order to love each other in the end anyway? The answer is simple. There was no reason. And if handled improperly, I would have been pissed off by its sheer stupidity. Satyamev Jayate and its sequel was like this. So was Heropanti too. JBJ could have been part of this great list of shitty films, but it hits different. Why? Because they tried. And trying goes a long way. JBJ was not a film made as a nostalgic crash grab or a sequel to what was successful or following the trends of the time. It was a film trying something unique and for the most part original. I really enjoyed that aspect because if you don't try, that shit can be seen. Welcome to the Jungle is a prime example of this in the current meta. It has the scale, but no soul attached. It is a substanceless film without any effort put in. JBJ also lacks substance and meaning, but it makes up for it in sheer effort. Everyone tried in this film and gave it their best. It makes for an engaging experience for me at least, and one that does not feel, at the very least, soulless in the end. I'm only convinced by its beauty, despite its flaws, because the filmmakers were, and I'm happier for it. So after this, half an hour discussion of a film that no one has thought about in 17 years, is JBJ an objectively good film? No, not really. It is a glass house at the mercy of one rock being thrown, but it is the beauty of that glass house that makes it enjoyable. It's just wonderful to look at. Every element built together to make not necessarily a cohesive film, but a mood and a feeling. It is a vibe of a film, and sometimes that is something I want, and something that I feel is missing in the current era, filled with unnecessary sequels, requels, remakes, and reboots. JBJ in this current meta is a breath of fresh air, what is built for the sake of making the audience just have fun, but just a lighthearted story told in an earnest and in a just unique manner. And that's why I love JBJ. If you like my video on a film that no one really cares about, then please like, share, and subscribe. Maybe one day you can be one of my Andi Bandi Shandis. This is my first video, and I hope to create and make content for your entertainment and for my experience. I've also created a short based on the songs from this film, and I would love if you guys could check that out as well. This is something new to me, and if I made mistakes, which I'm quite sure I did, I edited this entire thing. अगर मुझे कुछ टूटियां हुई तो I hope you can forgive me for it. I appreciate you all for watching. Goodbye, and one day we shall meet at Waterloo Station.
But wait, there's more.
There was no substance, which is honestly okay. Films can be successful without substance.